Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to the latest episode of One Missing, One Murdered, All Indigenous, which is a true crime podcast dedicated to true crime involving Indigenous people. Now, I'm your host, Jordan Lonebear, and I want to say thank you so much and welcome to all the new listeners that we've gathered over the last few months. I know that I took a break for a little bit. Obviously, there's been a lot of things that have happened and a lot of things that have changed since the last time we've met. Obviously, the COVID or coronavirus is still very rampant out there, and I want to give my condolences and support to the Navajo Nation, who, out of all of the indigenous communities, was hit probably the hardest by this COVID pandemic. And I hope that everybody out there is practicing social distancing. I hope you're wearing your mask, keeping yourself sanitized, and keeping a minimum of 6 feet between you and another person. I know that everybody's getting pretty stir crazy out there, but just try to do your part. Try to do your part and help flatten the curve, and so that way we can get through this a lot faster. And also, I wanted to give a great big shout out to a close personal friend of mine who actually went out of her way to create a theme song for the show. Now, this is a custom theme song that was written by my good friend Raenisa Ridley. Now, this song is a prayer song. And she dedicated this to all the missing, murdered Indigenous people, and it's for those individuals that we've lost, as well as the families that were affected by this loss, and hopefully that they may be able to find their way home because of this song. Hopefully soon we'll actually be able to get her on the show to actually talk about the show. Talk about the song itself, and to hear it from her mouth, and that this song is something that is very personal to her. So she was completely honored, and I am honored to actually have this song for the show and to play it for all the individuals from this day forward and beyond. Also, I hope that everybody enjoys the new redesign for the show. I enjoyed the initial logo and design of the show, but I felt like taking it in a different direction, so I was actually able to kind of make this on my own. And I hope you all enjoy it. Any feedback that you guys have about it, I greatly appreciate, because this is hopefully this is the new standard bearer for the show, the new logo, if you will. So, and I hope you guys all enjoy it. And you can actually go to the Facebook page and share your reactions, or on the YouTube channel. Just give any critiques, any ideas, how you think, how you feel. Let us know on the Facebook page. How do you feel about the new redesign for the logo? I mean, I personally like it because I was the one that did it. But I hope that everybody enjoys it. Now, today's episodes really have gotten me thinking, and in the last few months, something that has happened pretty recently is a lot of the Save Our Children. I know that a lot of it's flooded my personal Facebook pages, and it's really gotten me to start thinking, because not only is this something that the entire world is waking up to, it's also something that's hitting a lot closer to home than I ever anticipated. To kind of put a little personal note in this, we've actually had several cases in the community where I live here in Utah. small town. This is something that really honestly has never, it's probably happened once or twice, maybe in a year or so, or this is something that maybe none of us have truly noticed. I mean, but there was an incident involving a few little children in the neighborhood that I used to live. Now I have two small boys, so it's really caused a shake and a stir in my own backyard. So it got me really thinking a lot, to really wanting to focus in on some children. We have today 2 cases involving 2 minors, and I hope that by telling these stories that maybe we may be able to feature some of these, and maybe even try to hopefully bring some awareness to these cases, and maybe even possibly bring home, if not get some answers. Obviously, somebody out there knows something about these individuals, and hopefully one day we may be able to find the true answers together. And I also want to give out my condolences to those of that, our firefighters that are dealing with a lot of the fires out here in the West, because we are truly affected by a lot of this smoke. It's actually caused a lot of health issues, as well as this COVID pandemic. I mean, we if we weren't inside before, we definitely are now. So my thoughts and prayers go out to the brave men and women who are fighting the fires, as well as the families that are involved or being affected by these fires. With all that being said, I hope that let's jump into the very first missing case today by talking about the strange disappearance of Roland Spencer III. Born on September 3rd of 1980, Roland Jack Spencer III was a young Indigenous boy from Wapato, Washington. Now, at a very young age, Roland, who also went by his middle name Jack or Doughboy, it could be Doughboy, it's actually spelled D-O-boy, so I'm kind of just picking either way, either pronunciation probably would work. He was actually diagnosed at an early age with epileptic seizures, which actually required him to take medication. And if he didn't get this medication, he could actually slip into a coma. Now, in addition to that, he also suffered from a loss of hearing. So Roland obviously is a child who requires a lot of love and a lot of attention. And from one blog that I had read online, from one account from one family member, I wasn't able to trace the name of this family member, but the account was that Roland's mother was actually abused by Roland's father while she was pregnant with him, so causing all of these illnesses to kind of manifest later on. So giving Roland sort of a challenging start in life. And as if all of that wasn't enough to deal with, in 1982, Roland's mother, Celeste Faye Spencer Yallop, actually went missing. Now, she went missing, and just 2 weeks after she was last seen, on November 11, 1982, now, unfortunately, her body was discovered at the bottom of a gully in a field off McCullough Road along the north slope of Autumn Ridge. Now, her cause of death was actually hypothermia and was ruled as an unfortunate accident. So you got to think that Roland's dealing, along with all these ailments he's dealing with, he loses his mother at just the age of 2. I mean, this is sort of a really rough start, for Roland right out of the gate. Following the death of his mother, Roland was actually sent to live with his great aunt. And on May 25th of 1984, then 3-year-old Roland Jack Spencer III disappeared. Now, he was last sighted in the area of Knight Lane and Campbell Road in Yakima County in Wapato, Washington. Now, he was actually last seen wearing a long-sleeved red shirt with white stripes on the sleeves. He was wearing brown corduroy pants and brownish tan boots. Now, due to his mental disability, he was actually only able to walk short distances, and any further than that would actually cause him to fall down. He had actually had a very limited vocabulary at the time of his disappearance, only being able to say phrases like mommy or mama, dada, and do. Some physical identification marks were that Roland actually had a scar above his abdomen. He also had black and brown eyes. Now, authorities actually believe that Jack was abducted, but abducted by a non-family member. And I've put pictures up on the website, on the Facebook page. The only pictures that really have ever been released actually has just been one photo, and it was released in a black and white photo in a yellow page ad, which listed him as missing. And I do have that picture up on the Facebook page if you'd like to come check it out. Now, in 2009, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, reopened the investigation into Roland's mother's death and the murders of other Native American women in the area. there were actually 15 other women who were murdered on or near the Yakima Indian Reservation in the 1980s to the 1990s. Now, from what I've read about this, I mean, it's really unknown if her death was actually even connected with these murders, and there's been no connection whatsoever to Roland's disappearance and all of that. Obviously, this is something that I would love to cover, and we will cover in a future episode, but I kind of wanted to put that in there, that his mother has actually been kind of bundled in with these other women that were murdered around the Yakima Indian Reservation. Now, on November 6th of 2000, Roland was actually declared legally dead. And at the time of this recording, the case actually still remains open and unsolved. And if you have any information or might know somebody that does regarding Roland's disappearance, I strongly encourage you to contact Lieutenant James Shike of the Yakima Tribal Police Department at 509-865-7765. Case number 405273. Obviously, the family wants answers. We all want answers. We definitely want to see any and all answers come through and just have some sort of justice or closure for the family. Once again, that number to call is 509-865-7765, case number 405273. Now, unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of information that's been put out there since Roland's disappearance. The family has been a little quiet. I haven't really been able to find too much as far as family members go. I'm hopefully within the next few weeks going to be able to contact somebody. And if I do, I definitely want to sit down and do an interview with them so that way they can really help tell the story and give us a real update as to where his case really stands today. Because as of today, doing the research for all this has been really tough because, like I said, there's not a lot of information out there. There's not a lot of updated information. So I'm kind of working off of what I can find. As well as hopefully get some information that I can out of the tribal police department that's overseeing the investigation. But I will definitely love to keep everybody updated as to where this case stands, and hopefully one day we will get to the bottom of this and we will help solve the mystery as to what really happened to Roland. Now, one of the things that I wanted to mention in the show that I completely left out was that Roland actually will be about 40 years old today. Like I said, very tragic story. There's no answers for Roland's case at all. And I hope that by talking about this case, and maybe hopefully that's the kind of the goal of the entire show period, is to kind of like, as long as we talk about him, hopefully maybe someday we'll be able to get those answers. Now, our next case is a pretty recent one, all the way back in 2018, the case of Henny Scott, who the entire case definitely raises a lot more questions than answers. It's a case that I personally feel was kind of fumbled and probably wasn't handled properly. Now, I've talked to several friends of the show who have their opinions on how they believe the case was handled or mishandled, if you will. And I kind of want to jump into this episode. Henny Scott, another minor as well, prime example of a life cut way too short. Let's jump right into that episode right now. Henny Scott was a 14-year-old Indigenous girl from the Northern Cheyenne Indian Reservation in Lame Deer, Montana. Now, according to a blog that was written on November 26th of 2019, it was posted on the investigationforthemissing.org. Henny's mother, Paula Castro Stopp, stated that she last heard from her daughter on December 7th of 2018. Now, Henny had actually called her mom to ask her if she could go to Billings, Montana to attend a basketball tournament, but she was reminded by her mom that she was grounded. And, the answer was no. So Henny actually replied, quote, "Okay, Mom, I'll be home in a little bit." And sadly, that would be the very last time that Paula would ever hear Henny's voice again. I mean, so the big question that everyone has right now is, where was Henny? Well, according to that same blog, Henny was actually at a house in the Muddy Creek area. Now, when Paula hadn't heard from Henny the next day, she actually decided to take to social media to ask if anyone had heard or even seen Henny, but no luck at all. Now, after a few days, Henny's parents actually decided to go to the police to report her missing. Now, Paula actually remembers being dismissed or feeling dismissed by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or BIA, law enforcement police agency. They asked if Paula had actually checked with Henny's friends and that maybe even possibly that she had a new boyfriend, and that's where she was. That one is a question that kind of strikes me as odd, but again, I'm not very familiar with what's going, what the situation is up there, but that is something that kind of stands out a little bit to me. Now, it wasn't until 2 weeks later that the BIA Police Department would actually release a missing persons alert on December 26th of 2018. Now, remind you, the last time that anybody had actually heard from Henny was on the 7th of December. So a little over 2 weeks, they finally would put out a missing persons release. Now, within the first few weeks after going missing, Henny's family, along with help of the tribal community, they actually organized some search parties on their own. These were parties that were mainly made up of volunteers. After a little less than 3 weeks after Paula had last heard from her daughter, on December 28th of 2018, search parties actually came across the lifeless body of Henny Scott. Now, her body had actually been discovered covered in snow, and Henny's body was actually just 200 yards behind the house in the Muddy Creek area where people had actually last seen Henny leaving from. I can't help but think that if the police agency or anybody around that area had actually checked around the area within that they might have actually found Henny. But again, this is December up in Montana, so I'm guessing snowfall is pretty rampant and pretty heavy. I'm stationed here in Utah, but I can only imagine how heavy the snowfall is up in the Montana area. Now, according to a statement that was released by the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office, District of Montana, which was released on Thursday, August 22nd of 2019, Henny was last seen alive on December 8th of 2018 when she walked away from the Muddy Creek residence. She was last seen wearing lightweight clothing in below freezing temperatures. Now, a forensic examination determined that Henny Scott actually died of hypothermia, and that a manner of death was listed as, quote, accidental. The examination actually did not find any significant trauma or pre-existing diseases. They did find that alcohol use was found to be a significant factor and condition in her death. Now, in that same release, the Department of Justice actually stated that no federal charges would be sought after in the death of Henny Scott. As in all cases under the consideration that responsibility of the U.S. Attorney's Office is to determine whether a federal crime has been committed and whether it can be proven all elements of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. In this case, the office cannot prove any federal crime was committed when Henny Scott walked away from the residence. Quote, this case has been priority of this office, the FBI and BIA. Henny Scott's death has deeply affected her family and the Northern Cheyenne tribe and has drawn significant public concern. We send our sympathies to Miss Scott's family and to the entire tribal community. That was actually a quote by U.S. Attorney Kurt Alm. Now, following the cause of death put out there, Henny's mom, Paula, actually says that she's actually not convinced that it was hypothermia. Quote, I don't think that she died from hypothermia. I have pictures of her nose being broken. You can just tell that her nose was broken, and she had some bruises. But they told me that there was nothing on her and that there was no foul play. But she was bruised, end quote. Now, the police still maintain that Henny's death was an accident and say that they cannot prove that any crime was committed. So, as it stands today, the case is pretty much closed. Now, I've gotten an opportunity to talk to Henny's mother, Paula, and from the short conversations we had, I know that they were in the process of trying to get the case reopened and trying to really get down to the bottom of what they think really happened to Henny. Now, some of the things I wanted to touch on when it came to Henny's case, because obviously it's something that really was some of the questions that I had, was number one, why wasn't there an Amber Alert issued? Obviously, Henny is under the age of 18 and still a minor. And I did a little research into the Amber Alert system. Now, to kind of gloss over it a little bit, in order for there to be an Amber Alert issued, there has to be reasonable belief by law enforcement that there was an abduction. So obviously in Henny's case, there was no knowledge whether or not she had been abducted. As far as they knew and found that Henny had actually just walked away from the residence that she was visiting at. Also, that law enforcement agencies believe that the child is in imminent danger or serious bodily injury or death could apply to Henny's case. Another one is that there is enough descriptive information about the victim and the abduction for law enforcement to issue an Amber Alert to assist in the recovery of the child. Again, from everything that the police and from the stories that I've heard, there was no evidence that Henny had actually been abducted at all. Abduction of a child of age 17 years or younger, obviously Henny fits half of that. So that kind of sums up the Amber Alert system in a nutshell, and could actually answer any questions as to why an Amber Alert was not issued. But according to the Missing Child Emergency Response Quick Reference Guide for Families, this comes from the missingkids.org. Just some guidelines as to if you feel as though when it comes to reporting a child missing. Here's some I want to run through a little bit with you, so that way you know and are better prepared in the situation. Obviously, you don't know how you're going to react in that scenario. But here is kind of a guideline, and I'll put the link in the description as well for anybody that'd like to know. Number 1, contact your local law enforcement agency as soon as you have determined that your child is missing or has been abducted. Do not delay in reporting your child missing to law enforcement. Number 2, search in any areas where the child could actually crawl or hide, possibly be asleep or unable to get out. This includes closets, piles of laundry, in and under beds, inside large appliances, in vehicles, including trucks, or any other space in which a child might fit. Check areas where your child was last seen or may have played, such as open or abandoned wells, caves, sheds, buildings, and or crawl spaces. Number 3, provide law enforcement with the date, time, and location where your child was last seen, if known. Number 4, provide law enforcement with the name or names of the last person or persons who saw your child, if known. Number 5, determine the names of companions or associates last seen with your child. Number 6, secure your child's room and personal belongings until law enforcement has the opportunity to conduct a search. Number 7, identify and secure any computers, wireless devices used by your child, but do not attempt to conduct a search of these devices on your own. Ask law enforcement to look for clues in any chat and social networking websites your child has visited or hosts. Number 8, provide law enforcement with information about your child's general health and any medical conditions or concerns. Number 9, compile descriptive information about your child and have the information available to provide to the first responding law enforcement investigator. Descriptive information should include items and information such as recent clear color photo of your child, video of your child, a description of the clothing worn at the time the child was last seen in, cell and other phone numbers, date of birth, hair and eye color, height, weight, complexion, identifiers such as eyeglasses or contact lenses, braces, body piercings, tattoos, and or any unique physical attributes. Number 10, ask the responding officer if immediate community notification such as Amber Alert has been considered. Number 11, ask the responding officer if a neighborhood canvass will be conducted. Number 12, restrict access to home no matter where your child was last seen until law enforcement has arrived and had the opportunity to search the home and surrounding areas. Number 12, try to keep all phone lines open. Number 13, provide law enforcement with information regarding custody issues, if any, including court-ordered visitation conditions. Number 14, provide law enforcement with information about any recent changes in your child's behavior. Number 15, provide law enforcement with information about any individuals who have recently shown unusual attention to or interest in your child. Number 16, obtain the name and contact information for the primary investigator assigned to your child's case. And number 17, report your missing child to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC, at 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678. And again, I'll be sharing this information on the website with links down below so that way you can print these off and to kind of go through. That's just kind of a run through. There's a lot more information when it comes to really responding and trying to help find your child. And also one thing that I did get a chance to do was to talk to a local BIA law enforcement officer within my tribal community here locally. Some of the things that he talked about was that his suggestion was for any person that is reporting their child missing when it comes to BIA law enforcement and just in general to be proactive, to make sure that you're out in the community, make sure that you're doing your part to try to find them. Spread the word through social media, text message, visiting family, friends, and really making sure that that people are looking for them, and that is, to be proactive in your own child's search and not just sitting around. He says that that's a big help for law enforcement and kind of helps narrow it down and kind of gets more eyes open, because the more eyes we have out there looking, the better chances of finding this child really increase as the attention grows. But like I said, that was just a little tidbit of information that he suggested, and also to remain calm. I have a personal experience with this as well, reporting my child missing. I was frantic as well. Again, like I said, you don't know how you're gonna respond or what it's gonna be like when you're in that scenario. But like I said, that from personal experience, I would definitely recommend to stay calm as you can, and make sure that you are looking in every direction. Canvass neighborhoods, walk around, and all that sort of thing. So just a reminder to every parent out there to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your child as best you can, keep in contact, especially with the older kids, and hopefully maybe someday we might get the true answers, or what we feel as though should be the true answer and justice for Henny Scott. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of One Missing, One Murdered, All Indigenous. Now, I want to say, once again, thank you so much to Raenisa Ridley for giving us this amazing theme song, and I hope to continue on working with you in the future. Like I said, we're going to have to definitely get you involved in an interview to help, kind of tell your story and really give a perspective on this. Any and all pictures that we have will be posted up on the Facebook page. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/True Indigenous Crime Pod. And if you've got a case that you want us to look into, I definitely suggest to hit us up also on the Facebook page. If not there, then to go ahead and email us directly at trueindigenouscrimepod@gmail.com. Now, I'm going to be uploading this to the Podbean app. We're hopefully going to be able to start moving on, expanding into the different platforms such as Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and such like that. But right now, these are the two formats, are Podbean and YouTube. You can catch us there. And just a reminder, if you like the show, please share it. Any and all new listeners, I greatly appreciate. Tell everybody about the show. I hope that if you enjoy it, you share this, and we'll be doing way more episodes here in the next coming weeks. I've got some great interviews lined up to kind of help fill some of the gaps in between here, so that way it's not just all cases. But like I said, thank you again to everybody that's listening out there. Please share, subscribe to the Facebook, to the Podbean, to YouTube. And like I said, once we start expanding more, I'm going to keep everybody updated on that. So keep your eye out for more new episodes coming up and any updates that'll be putting out there. So with that being said, I want to say thank you, or toeak in my native language, and I hope that you all have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay blessed. Have a good one.
Ah